We are back to cover more Ben Elliott. He is the twin accused of killing his sister, and he claims that he was sleepwalking and didn't know what he was doing, and he said he thought it was just all a dream. Well, if you've been following along with us, I don't know why the news stations, all the big channels, TV channels too, they are not covering this trial. Not really, anyway. We have a lot of clips that come out from each witness that took the stand, and it's so odd what's happening with these clips that are randomly getting added that would equal day one. But that was 2 days ago, and today they released more from Friday. So they are like not only doing clips, but they're holding out those clips and making them last through the weekend, evidently, because tomorrow will be day 2 of the trial. I really do hope that they start covering it starting tomorrow, but if they don't, every evening I will pull together all of the clips and we'll watch probably around like 8 o'clock my time. I know all of you are in such different spaces than my time, but we'll see what we can do. But 8 o'clock, and that way we can watch the whole thing and be kept up to date. But we're going to go ahead and watch the 2 people who took the stand that they just now released this evening. Let me move myself to the corner. I already put them together as one video. Okay. So the first person we know that we'll watch, and I haven't seen any of it, is there is an expert witness who's on the stand. So when we start, that is him. But I also saw in the details that one of Ben's friends actually testifies. So I'm really looking forward to that, because we heard his family on Friday. We heard what they had to say, but we'll be curious to see if the friend thinks the same way that the family does, or if he gives insight that there could be something bad going on. All right, let me go ahead and start it. If you happen to be on, let me know if you can hear the audio.
He definitely did not try to cover up. I heard the 911 phone call, and he admitted to this right away, recognizing that he had done this.
At any time did he tell you how many times he had stabbed his sister?
We didn't really go into discussion of how many times. What he said is he recalled stabbing and coming out of this dream, realizing he's stabbing and thinking maybe it's his sister, and he like realized that he's just stabbed his sister. It was a single stabbing that he recalled. But yet the evidence showed there were 2 thrusts of the knife, and he doesn't recall. His characterization was always a single thrust as he's coming out of this dream. And so he's amnestic to getting out of the bed, grabbing the knife, mobilizing over to by his sister, and then the first thrust, it's not part of his recollection.
So when you're in stage 3 sleep, slow wave sleep, are you dreaming?
As I pointed out earlier, there is some dream kind of content that's vague when someone's asked to describe what they recall. It's not vivid description like in a REM sleep. So there is some degree of dreaming, yes.
number 6 is amnesia, and that's what we were just talking about. Do you have anything else to add to what you just said about amnesia or dreams?
Well, there's usually some level of amnesia. And usually it's complete or partial. So what's partial? Amnesia of the actual event. So you can have pockets of memory that can be there from the event. That's not exclusionary. So usually there would be no memory, but there can be some memory of part of the event.
If you know, what does a person do when they realize something's happened but they have no memory of it?
Traditionally we call for speculation.
He's an expert in neurology and sleep studies and sleep science, and I think he's qualified to answer that question.
So rule, you may answer.
You may answer.
So I want to make sure I understand the question. You said, what would be a normal response when someone has done a violent act without knowing that they did this and recognizing that they just did this?
Let me ask it differently.
Okay.
What is confabulation?
Confabulation is when you make up events to cover up, or someone's like malingering, or just they're trying to fake or get out of doing something.
Can confabulation be you trying to reconcile the situation you find yourself in with not remembering what happened?
Yeah, so we use medically confabulation typically like with alcoholics that can't remember, their memory goes bad, and so they'll fake and they'll make up things when you ask them questions, and they'll fill in the gaps by just making up things when asked.
So you're making up things based on what you find when you come to?
Well, yeah, it would fit.
Possibly?
Yes.
And then this slide is a summary of the 7 points we just went over. Is that correct?
Well, it's point number 7 that they break down. The episode may occur upon arising, typically in the first third of the night, and it may also occur when attempting to awaken the person. And this is sort of like just a review, but again, these are points that I wanted to individually address. So I do that, that there's no attempt to awaken him, or, that we don't know of any attempts that anyone made to awaken him. But again, it's not exclusionary. It says may. Subject may be hard to awaken. Again, it's not exclusionary. We don't know that anyone, because that could be the trigger. But in his case, I think it's probably the sleep apnea that could be the trigger. And the subject may resume going back to sleep afterwards, being very sleepy. My understanding is that when he got into the police car or later, he fell asleep, but it wasn't right after the event. But then again, that's not exclusionary. They may. I think with all the emotion going on, he was highly vigilant, and he was clearly on point during the 911 call. I wanted to see, was he showing any evidence of confusion? He was in disbelief and overly, appropriately upset, but also on point to carry out exactly what the 911 operator was telling him, to the point where he's doing CPR, keeping count. He's trying to do everything he can and says, don't let her die, don't let her. It was put tears in my eyes.
Okay, continue.
Immediately after regaining consciousness, the individual may experience confusion, which is what I just talked about, or horror. Well, in his case, he had, horror. But again, the quick resumption and not having lack of confusion, I have that other history from...
Non-responsive.
Question answer, please.
In regards to this slide, are we discussing E?
Yes, E.
Okay. And what is it that's important for the jury to know about E?
That there's a description of another parasomnic event when he was 13 with the donut, where he quickly reoriented. So that alone doesn't change. If I didn't have that quick orientation, but I had that parasomnia, it wouldn't change my conclusion, but it's one more piece of, he's already been witness to have a parasomnia and have a quick reorientation, which is not typical of what's described in the literature. Usually, not always, usually there can be a period of confusion. But I was able to feel more comfortable rectifying that by knowing that there was a previous event where he oriented, knew where he was in disbelief that he had gone up and ate this donut and what have you. So it's a repetitive set of events.
So after you found this article that was published in 2024, did your opinion that you gave in 2022 change at all?
No.
And what is your opinion about the events that occurred on September 29th of 2021?
That it was a perfect storm of circumstances. One thing we didn't elaborate on was his illness prior to this.
Objection to non-responsive.
Sustain. Ask your
What
question.
would his illness prior to this, how would that affect this event?
He had a respiratory illness with some congestion that could, if anything, make his sleep apnea worse. His sleep cycle was way off. You know, he was home from school. And then also the time of night being, you know, he was sleep deprived. You know, we don't have there was characterization of his behaviors earlier, so we can assume he was to some degree sleep deprived. Had proximity of a weapon or a knife, and sleep apnea as a trigger. Family history of having abnormalities of arousal and parasomnias, and him himself having had parasomnias, and that is a trigger. And then I felt that this is within reasonable medical certainty that it was a parasomnia that occurred that night, that there was no pre-planned intent, and it's so out of context. And medically I can explain this, and it's really unfortunate.
Objection to non-responsive.
She's answering
My
the question.
opinion.
Whose opinion is it?
At a certain point, it starts deviating.
Okay.
Just continue asking questions to get that opinion out, please.
And what's the rest of your opinion?
Well, that this was an event that was a parasomnia.
And then, oddly enough, you have a footnote in this article.
Yeah, so when I went through and looked at the articles that were referenced in this paper, actually there was an abstract of mine on parasomnia, as a different kind, on REM behavior disorder. That was one of the ones that came up on their literature search. But it didn't make the final cut because it didn't have enough detail that they were looking for in order to be inclusive, and it was just the abstract from a presentation at the American Academy of Sleep Medicine's annual meeting. But yeah, there were 2 cases of using a gun as part of a parasomnia. And we didn't talk about overlap disorder, just to show you how this field evolves. There's REM.
Objection to non-responsive and relevance.
So,
No, let me, that's a same question, please.
non-REM behavior disorder is completely different than
You mean REM behavior disorder?
REM behavior disorder.
Well, you say that different. No, I'm going to differ on that. Let me explain why.
Okay, well, no, it has nothing
Okay.
to do with this case.
I don't think it does.
Okay, then let's just leave it there. Okay. Can you tell the jury, again, from the polysomnographs that were done, how long did it take Benjamin to fall asleep in those polysomnographs?
Objection to asked and answered.
You said it again, is there like, are you getting to another point where we need to hear it again?
Yes, Your Honor, but I'm happy to ask a different question.
Okay. I just don't want to have the same questions.
There are 2 different sleep studies.
Correct.
In one, it took him longer to fall asleep than in the other.
Correct.
And how long did it take him to fall asleep?
I think it was 7. You'd have to go back and look at it. I think.
Look at the slide.
Okay. So this was, which one was this? This is the second, well, the second one was very short. The first one was longer. The first one was maybe 17 minutes, I think. The second one, he fell asleep within 2 minutes of being told to fall asleep. And then he went into slow wave sleep and 3 sleep within 9 minutes. So that would be 11 minutes after the beginning of the study when they say lights out.
completed your report in 2022, and prior to your testifying today, did you discuss this case with someone else who is a
Well,
expert in sleep medicine?
obviously, I have colleagues and I talk about certain ones, but I think I wanted to, there was a particular neurologist who's very familiar with parasomnias, and I think I asked you, I want you to get another opinion to see.
Let's talk with Meghan. How would you describe Meghan's personality?
Shy, friendly, very kind.
So kind of like what I've already been saying, but if you weren't here for the other two videos, they're kind of chopped up a little bit. I can't help it. So we're seeing what we can. Going back in the chat really quick, just make sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah, these clips are from Friday. And tomorrow is day 2. But it's going to be rolling out as clips again. So around 8 o'clock my time, we'll watch the whole thing. I'll get all the clips, put it together into one, and we'll watch. I made a theory in my last video, and I have been doing a lot of research, so we will find out soon. But I was saying that one of the reasons why maybe they're not covering this trial is, or at least poorly covering it, is maybe this family is suing the police department in Texas. It would make sense because we've already seen and heard a lot of the things that the police did that either just dropped the ball or was not professional, and I wouldn't be surprised if that is what's going on. So I'm looking, hopefully I'll have more information on that tomorrow, or at least to be able to say yes or no, they aren't suing. All right, this is now Ben's friend, and this is the only other clip so far that we have missed. So once again, this was Friday. Here's Ben's friend.
What about Ben?
A bit less shy, but equally kind-hearted, and also usually tries to include Meghan with whatever activities there was at.
Okay. How would Ben treat Meghan when you were interacting with those guys?
Ben would usually be the one encouraging Meghan to come out of her shell, per se. There was hardly a moment where I spent time with Ben that Meghan wasn't nearby.
Anon, there was an incident that happened shortly after this picture was taken. Is that correct?
The morning after, yes.
So let me back up a little bit. When, obviously, you know why we're here and why Ben is here, right?
Of course.
When you were given information that Ben was sleepwalking, what was your reaction?
I was shocked to hear the news at first, and then I immediately thought of the incident that you mentioned at that slumber party in April of 2016. So Benjamin Elliott, during our sleepovers, would sleep on the couch and let his sister sleep on a mattress on the floor next to my sister.
Okay, who determined who slept where?
Benjamin Elliott would usually be the first to volunteer himself for a couch, and it was just kind of tradition from then on out.
So he would let his sister take the mattress.
That is correct. And then we had a bunch of donuts for breakfast set on the stovetop. And when I woke up, was heading out of the room, Benjamin Elliott was already holding one in his hands. He was lying on the couch, his head on the armrest, facing my way, and he was eating a donut.
Okay. What was his demeanor like when you saw him at first?
Rather calm. He was just eating his donut.
Okay. What did you say to him?
Meghan Elliott and Elizabeth saying we're already awake at the time, so I simply wish everybody good morning.
Okay. And did that seem to startle or alert Mr. Elliott?
A little bit. He mostly looked baffled at the fact that he was holding a donut in his hand. And that it was already partially eaten by him.
And what did Ben say about the donut?
Well, after I said good morning and he noticed the donut was in his hand, he said he had the weirdest dream. He was dreaming about eating a donut and that he just woke up and the donut was in his hands and he was already eating it.
So his present sense impression to you was he was startled there was a donut on his chest.
Yeah, when he was holding the donut, there were crumbs on his chest. He wasn't usually the type to eat a donut or anything like that without a plate or on the couch. He would usually ask first.
Okay. What struck you about Ben's demeanor when he said that to you?
Just the sheer confusion on his face. Like, he genuinely seemed baffled as to how that happened.
And so to get that donut from where he was, tell the jury what he would have to have done to get it back to that couch.
Well, the donuts were not within his arm's reach. He would have had to have gotten up, walked over to the stovetop, opened the box, grab a donut, and then walk back to the couch where he was sleeping earlier.
Now, you did not witness Ben walking around or anything like that, right?
I did not. That was moments before I woke up, I can presume. Because he only took like 1 or 2 bites out of it.
Did Ben seem to have any idea where the donut had come from?
I'm sure he could have made the inference that it was from the donut box, but as far as he was aware, it just appeared in his hands.
Did you, when this case, Anam, first happened, did you immediately, this incident immediately come to mind to you?
Like, after the shock of hearing that Meghan Elliott was dead, that was immediately where my brain went to once I found out more details. Like, my brain just immediately thought, this is just like that donut incident at that slumber party we had.
All right, there's the donut story from the friend. Chase Brown, still with us. What'd you think?
All right, so that was it. We are officially caught up again. A couple takeaways for that. On Friday, when they were doing opening statements, the state prosecutor was laying out all these facts, right? And one of them was that when you are sleepwalking, you do not dream. You can't dream. And I actually on Friday pushed a little bit against that because I have one time that I know of, I was sleepwalking and I got woken up while I was walking. And all I remember is being very confused and then saying I was getting ready for school. I was younger, obviously. So I think it's interesting they tried to eliminate dreams because sometimes it can go with it, maybe not. However, today they had the expert and he said there is some dreaming that can happen. So I'm going to go with the expert for that one, unless that state or somebody pulls in someone else and they argue that fact. But other than that, it was just the attorney who made that comment. So I definitely will side with the expert at this point. So the friend said that Ben was always kind and nice to his sister, and then he told us his story of one time when he was over, Ben was sleepwalking. Very interesting. He definitely feels how Ben's family feels. Everybody feels like he's innocent and this was not done on purpose or intentionally, and that he's just not the type of person to do that. So we'll continue on. I will be gathering all the rest tomorrow, and I'm excited for day 2 of it. And it will be interesting to see if Ben decides to take the stand. You know, and most times they don't have to if they don't want to, but it might be beneficial for him or not. I feel like his defense team is doing a good job right now. So, all right. I might be back on here in a little bit for one more live. I haven't decided. Otherwise, I will be on here tomorrow morning. So thank you for watching.